Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for having us community to community here in this space. My name is Tobon. I'm a Whatcom County Promotora, a community organizer here, place-based in Whatcom and in Skagit counties. I really look forward to this talk, this panel, because of the timeliness. We've been hit really hard with the flood in our community. We're actively having promotoras helping with the flood rapid response to our community members who are from farm worker immigrant communities. Community to community, for those who don't know who we are, we're a women-led based grassroots organization focused on three main components: food sovereignty, farm worker rights, and also the need for participatory democracy. These intersections of food and the people and the rights that people most impacted working the land intersect together with our work as promotoras, frontline, impacted community members. We're farm workers, we're women of color in our communities who live in our communities and also have been affected by a lot of these disasters and also changes in climate. So the connection between, this proposed legislation is very timely with the term of just planning in communities that don't really have a voice in land use in their areas. And we found through a lot of our work, we've been climate justice warriors for quite some time. Notable things that have happened in our community with the death of a farm worker in 2018 at Sarbanon Farms due to excessive heat really illustrate the need to continue to be in spaces to make policy changes to land use and related to climate change. From heat record waves here in our communities, providing air quality education, but also understanding from community members what needs to be done to prevent, a lack of response from local governments or planning. To our flood, we have been conducting many surveys to our community as a rapid response, as an organizing opportunity to understand from our community their most basic needs, but also how has emergency response been deployed here related to the flooding. And many community members ask us, well, how can we know more about the river and if we're likely to flood again? Our farm workers workforce is predominantly Indigenous speaking in our communities, and they pose unique opportunities and challenges when organizing and trying to deal with planning. We know that community members live in areas very close to our Nooksack River, likely to experience being overflooded, or also due to nature of work, experience extreme weather conditions because working outside. So our promotoras have been on the forefront with a couple different campaigns related to environmental justice. And this is really crucial when we are talking about high level planning with developers and planners who may not have us in mind due to a variety of reasons, lack of representation, language, implicit bias. They never think about us. So the community members have been involved in quite a different level of campaigning related to environmental justice, one related to heat. So heat, smoke, and wildfires. We're involved in a coalition of farm workers and farm worker advocates across 3 states to push for consistent rules related to heat, wildfire, and smoke. Our state is going through a rulemaking process. So that is a gateway for participation with workers' rights, but also understanding that we also need to understand how to mitigate the challenges of climate change. So these types of spaces related to growth management are crucial when farm workers want to be in spaces where there's actually planning being implemented at our local and state levels. The second thing is related to flooding. So how can community members work with emergency response for planning for future floods, because the farm workers know that they're going to be flooded again. A lot of our community members in Sumas and nearby cities have been flooded twice or 3 times, depending on rain that has come our way. And also understanding that where their housing is will also dictate, if they're going to be susceptible to a lot of this response to or lack of response of emergencies. So a lot of farm workers want to know about river management. They want to know, like, why are certain services in this area? Why is my housing in this zone? They're really curious, and they have such great commentary on the rapid response surveys about what needs to be done and what information they need to know to keep themselves safe, and also provide back to the economy that they are participating in here in Whatcom and in Skagit counties. Predominantly a lot of land here in our county. We are well known for our berries, and agricultural land has been lost due to floods. So how can we work with other groups to figure out how to keep the economy viable, but also to understand that climate change is real and we need to adequately plan with farm workers who are a large labor force in our counties. A third part of this environmental justice work is not just, dealing with disasters. How can we take a preventative approach and build the new? So community and promotoras are always looking for opportunity to strengthen our cooperatives. Cooperatives to land use related to making sure that we are treating the land with respect and treating it without toxic chemicals, and providing alternative for our communities to understand the connection of land and to work, and also to our culture and traditions. So we support, as promotoras, the development of the cooperative Tierra Libertad, Land and Liberty in Everson, Washington, and agroecology practices to build the new, stewarding the land in a way that we can show that there is a way to plan. If you're going to plan services or things related to what farm workers need to be active participants in their community, it's there in a cooperative model. So we also push for that as well. Climate resiliency is encompassing all that. It's involving the people, not just embedding them in existing structures for participation, but to understand their unique challenges related to housing and planning and services, representation and planning. We know in our community that there's not people who come from our community planning, or they're not developing our communities. Being conscious of the decision-making of having a farm worker voice for planning purposes. We know that because we actually have an urban planner on our team who's studying school and is a Latina, who has really guided our approach to considering planning in a different way. Farm workers have been participating in multiple community data-driven strategies for climate resiliency. For instance, there is a connection between land use and housing, right? As my compañera mentioned in the previous panel. We've done housing studies around farm workers, and number one, again, farm workers say if they had viable housing that is close to their community services, that they're part of the community, they would stay in the state to work and support the economy here. And again, investment in our communities is crucial for climate resiliency and having farm worker voice in that decision making. Why we support this piece of legislation, we understand this is a pretty high level type of piece of legislation, but we understand there's connections between land use and permitting and things that happen in our local area, that farm workers are understanding the level of planning that needs to happen for us to weather the storms or the disasters coming our way, because the food system is changing, and farm workers have been taking notice of this for quite some time. It will impact their jobs, it will impact their livelihoods, and also it will further disrupt the community's ability to support local areas for their economies. So we know that there's connections to this, and that's why we're involved. Again, my last point is farm workers want to engage, and I think the opportunities to engage need to be included in legislation like this. And we have definitely some feedback about what could be improved with this piece of legislation, but it's definitely a good start to actually include the most impacted, who work the land and steward the land from now and going forward. So thank you.